You know the feeling. You've done the work. You've pushed through the resistance, stayed up late, made the calls, held the discipline. And for the first time in a long time, things are actually moving. The relationship feels real. The career is gaining altitude. Your body feels like it belongs to you again. There's a momentum in your days that wasn't there before. And then you do something inexplicable. You send the text you knew would start a war. You miss the deadline that mattered most. You drink on the night before the meeting that could change everything. You say the one thing guaranteed to push away the person who was finally getting close. And afterward, sitting in the wreckage, you ask the question that has no good answer. Why did I do that? You're not stupid. That's the confusing part. You're probably sharper than most people in the room. You can see patterns others miss. You can analyze, strategize, plan. You understand cause and effect with uncomfortable clarity, which is exactly what makes it so disturbing when you become the cause of your own collapse. This is not a video about motivation. It's not about habits or morning routines or the neuroscience of dopamine. This is about something far more uncomfortable. It's about the invisible architecture inside your mind that decides, without your permission, how much good you're allowed to have. And what happens when you accidentally exceed that amount. If you've ever built something meaningful and then watched yourself tear it apart for no rational reason, what follows will explain why. Not in metaphor, in mechanism. Stay with this. The pattern you're not seeing. Here's what makes this particularly cruel for intelligent people. You can see the pattern in others with surgical clarity. You can identify exactly where your friend went wrong, exactly when your colleague self-destructed, exactly how someone you care about keeps repeating the same cycle. Your analytical mind is a precision instrument when it's pointed outward. But when it's pointed at yourself, it develops a blind spot so elegant, so perfectly calibrated, that you can study psychology for years and still not catch it operating in your own life. Because intelligence doesn't protect you from this. In many ways, it makes it worse. A sharp mind produces sharper rationalizations, better stories, more sophisticated explanations for why it wasn't self-sabotage. It was circumstances, timing, other people, bad luck. The smarter you are, the more convincing the cover story. So let's start with an observation that changes everything once you notice it. Your worst decisions don't happen at your lowest points. They happen at your highest ones. Think about it honestly. Trace back the last time you genuinely self-destructed. Not a minor slip, but a real demolition. Where were you emotionally right before? Were you suffering? Were you in crisis? Or were you, perhaps for the first time in a while, doing well? Most people assume that destructive behavior is a product of desperation. You're failing, so you spiral. You're depressed, so you make poor choices. And sometimes that's true. But there's another category of self-destruction that operates on completely different logic. It's the destruction that shows up specifically when things are working. The relationship implodes not during the hard months, but during the tender ones. The career stalls not when you lack opportunity, but when opportunity finally arrives. The health collapses not during the grind, but right after the breakthrough. There's a timing to it, and the timing is the clue. Psychologist Gay Hendricks spent decades studying this phenomenon in high-performing individuals. People with talent, intelligence, and resources who kept arriving at the edge of real success and then engineering their own removal from it. What he found wasn't a lack of ability or desire, it was something far stranger. He found that every person carries an internal set point, a threshold of well-being that was calibrated long before adulthood, a kind of psychological thermostat that determines the maximum temperature of happiness, love, and success your system can tolerate before it starts working to cool things down. When life is below that threshold, you're fine. Uncomfortable maybe, but familiar. When life rises above it, when joy, intimacy, or achievement crosses into uncharted territory, your unconscious mind doesn't celebrate. It sounds an alarm. And then, with remarkable precision, it finds a way to bring you back to baseline. Not because you want to fail, but because your nervous system has been trained to treat unfamiliar good as a species of danger. The thermostat, where it came from. The question that matters is not whether this mechanism exists. If you're honest with yourself, you've already felt it operate. The question is where it came from. The answer is early, painfully early, before you had language sophisticated enough to argue with what you were learning, before you could distinguish between a feeling and a fact, before you understood that the emotional weather in your household was not a universal climate, but a local one, specific, contingent, and not necessarily true. As a child, you were an extraordinarily sensitive instrument. You read the room the way a seismograph reads tectonic movement, not with understanding, but with precision. And from that reading, you drew conclusions, not intellectual conclusions, somatic ones. Conclusions that lived in your body, in the way your chest tightened or your breathing shallowed. Conclusions about how much space you were allowed to occupy, how much joy was permitted before someone got uncomfortable, how much success was safe before it triggered resentment, withdrawal, or punishment. How much of your authentic self could you express before the room turned hostile? These conclusions didn't stay conclusions. They calcified. They became the walls of a container you didn't know you were living inside. And the most disorienting part is this: the container doesn't feel like a container. It feels like reality. It feels like the natural shape of your life. You don't experience it as a limit imposed from outside. You experience it as who you are. You might even feel proud of it. I'm not delusional. I know my limits. I'm realistic about what's possible. And that pride is the lock on the door. Because you've turned the prison wall into a virtue. You've relabeled the constraint as maturity, as self-awareness, as wisdom earned through hard experience. And now you defend it, not because you recognize it as a limit, but because you've come to believe it is the truth about who you are. I'm just not the kind of person who... That kind of thing doesn't happen to people like me. I always find a way to mess it up. These sentences feel like self-knowledge. They are, in fact, the voice of the thermostat. The 4 invisible beliefs. Hendricks identified 4 core beliefs that typically wire the thermostat in place. Most people carry at least one. Many carry 2 or 3 stacked on top of each other, which is why the pattern can feel so immovable, like trying to push through a wall you can't even locate. The first is the belief in fundamental deficiency, not a specific weakness, something deeper. The sense that at the core of who you are, there is something wrong, something unreachable by effort or achievement. This belief usually grows in environments saturated with criticism, comparison, or emotional neglect. The child absorbs not a correctable flaw, but a verdict. I am the problem. When good things arrive in adulthood, they feel misaddressed, like a package delivered to the wrong house, and the unconscious works quickly to return it. The second is the belief in disloyalty. This one is quieter and in many ways crueler. It's the sense that surpassing the people who raised you, emotionally, financially, experientially, constitutes a kind of betrayal. If your parents struggled, if the household operated at a frequency of scarcity or suffering, then exceeding that frequency can feel not like growth, but like abandonment, like leaving them behind. And so some part of you keeps the ceiling low enough to stay in the family, not the physical family, the emotional one. The third is the belief that happiness invites catastrophe. This one is born from experience, not theory. At some formative moment, or across many moments, joy was followed by devastation. You were happy, and then someone got sick. You were celebratory, and then the ground fell away. The nervous system, brilliant in its own crude way, drew a survival conclusion. Feeling good is the thing that precedes the loss. Better to preempt the loss by preempting the feeling. Better to sabotage the joy yourself than to wait for the universe to do it. At least that way, you see it coming. The fourth is the belief that full expression leads to exile. This one thrives in environments where being too much, too loud, too ambitious, too emotional, too alive, was met with rejection or punishment. You learned that visibility is exposure, that success makes you a target, that the safest version of you is the diminished one. And so, when life invites you to expand, something inside contracts instead, not from laziness, but from a very old, very deep sense that taking up space is the precursor to being cast out. These beliefs don't operate in language. They operate in feeling. You don't think, "I am unworthy," and then sabotage. You feel a sudden, sourceless anxiety, a tightness, a restlessness, a vague dread, and then the sabotage happens automatically, as naturally as pulling your hand from a flame. What makes this particularly disorienting for intelligent people is that you are aware that something is happening. You can feel the shift. You might even be able to name the emotion. But awareness alone doesn't stop it, because the mechanism operates faster than reflection. By the time your conscious mind catches up, the argument has already started. The email has already been sent. The opportunity has already been declined. And your brilliant analytical mind, rather than questioning the behavior, immediately goes to work constructing a plausible explanation for it. I wasn't really ready. The timing wasn't right. It probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. The intelligence that should be your greatest asset becomes the mechanism's most reliable accomplice.
The disguises.
If self-sabotage announced itself honestly, it would be easy to stop. Hello, I'm the unconscious pattern that's about to destroy your relationship. Shall I proceed? No one would consent to that. So it doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself. And the disguises are so convincing that most people go their entire lives without seeing through them. The first disguise is worry. Not productive concern, not problem solving. A specific kind of worry that appears immediately after something positive. You get the promotion, and within hours your mind has manufactured an elaborate scenario of failure. You have a beautiful evening with someone you love, and by morning you're consumed by anxiety about something unrelated. The worry feels real. The content of the worry may even be plausible. But if you examine the timing, if you notice that the worry materialized precisely when things were going well, you begin to see its actual function. It is not a response to danger. It is the mechanism by which your system metabolizes an excess of well-being. The second disguise is conflict. The argument that erupts in the relationship at the exact moment intimacy deepens beyond the thermostat's tolerance. Something small becomes the catalyst, a tone of voice, a forgotten errand, and suddenly the warmth is replaced by distance, and some part of you, the part you don't want to admit exists, exhales. Because conflict is familiar. Conflict is a room you know how to be in. Intimacy at that depth is not. The third disguise is the body. The migraine the morning of the important meeting. The illness that arrives during the week of the launch. The fatigue that descends precisely when energy is most needed. The body is not a separate entity from the mind. It is the mind's most obedient collaborator. When the unconscious decides that the current trajectory is too threatening, the body provides the exit. Not through deception, the symptoms are real, but the timing is not coincidental. The fourth disguise is deflection. Something genuinely good happens and you immediately diminish it. It was luck. It won't last. Anyone could have done it. This is not humility. Humility acknowledges what happened and holds it lightly. Deflection refuses to let it land at all. It is a rapid, automatic adjustment, a thermostat correction disguised as modesty. Because if you let the win fully register, if you let it become part of your identity, it might raise the baseline. And raising the baseline is exactly what the system is designed to prevent. What expansion actually feels like. Here's the part no one tells you. Growth doesn't feel the way you think it will. We imagine that breaking through to a higher level of living will feel like liberation, like finally coming home, like the moment in the movie when the music swells and everything makes sense. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like anxiety. Not the anxiety of something going wrong, the anxiety of something going right in a way that exceeds your system's capacity to absorb it. A sourceless hum of unease that settles in your body without explanation. You scan for the threat, but there isn't one. You look for the problem, but things are, by any reasonable measure, fine. Better than fine. And yet something in you is bracing, waiting, preparing for the reversal that always comes. This is the critical moment, because this anxiety, this expansion-triggered discomfort, feels identical to the anxiety of genuine danger. The physiological signatures are the same: elevated heart rate, shallow breathing, heightened alertness, the sensation that something significant is about to happen. The only difference is interpretation. One interpretation says, something is wrong, pull back. The other says, something is changing, stay present. Fritz Perls, the founder of Gestalt therapy, observed that fear and excitement are physiologically almost indistinguishable. The body produces the same arousal. The difference is the story the mind tells about it. Call it fear, and you retreat. Call it expansion, and you breathe through it. Most people never learn to make that distinction. They feel the arousal at the edge of their limit and interpret it as a warning. And the interpretation becomes self-fulfilling. They retreat. The thermostat holds. The ceiling remains intact. And the next time they approach it, the alarm fires earlier and louder, because the system has learned that the territory beyond the limit is something to be avoided. But here's what happens if you don't retreat. If you stay with the discomfort, not fight it, not analyze it, just stay, something begins to shift. Not dramatically, not immediately, but incrementally, the nervous system starts to recalibrate. The unfamiliar territory becomes slightly less unfamiliar. The new level of well-being stops registering as threat and starts registering as ground. The thermostat moves, not because you forced it, because you stopped confirming that the old setting was the only safe place to be. This is counterintuitive for people who are used to solving problems through intelligence and effort. You cannot think your way past the upper limit. You cannot strategize it away. The thermostat was not set by logic, and it will not be moved by logic. It was set by repeated emotional experience, and it will only be moved by new emotional experience. Specifically, the experience of staying present with more goodness than your system was designed to hold, and discovering that you survive it. That discovery cannot happen theoretically. It can only happen experientially, which means you have to actually be in the moment of expansion, feeling the full weight of the discomfort, and choose not to exit. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There is only the willingness to be uncomfortable in a new direction. The practice of staying. Understanding the mechanism is necessary but not sufficient. You can comprehend this perfectly and still sabotage tomorrow. Because comprehension is a conscious activity, and the upper limit operates beneath consciousness. What actually works is a practice, specific, repeatable, and unglamorous. First, map your pattern, not in the abstract, concretely. Take the last 3 significant setbacks in your life: the relationship that ended, the opportunity that collapsed, the goal that dissolved. Now look at the moment immediately before the collapse. What was happening? How close were you to something you genuinely wanted? You'll find a signature, a repeating architecture. You always sabotage in the same emotional neighborhood, at the same proximity to fulfillment. using the same mechanism. Seeing the signature is not a cure, but you cannot interrupt a pattern you haven't identified. Second, catch the symptom in motion. This requires a specific quality of attention, not hypervigilance, honest noticing. When the worry spiral begins, pause and ask, did something actually go wrong, or did something just go right? When the impulse to pick a fight surfaces, ask, is this relationship genuinely in danger, or has the closeness become more than my system knows how to hold? When procrastination descends on the task that matters most, ask, is this task truly impossible, or am I approaching the boundary of what I believe I'm allowed to achieve? These questions don't eliminate the pull, but they create a gap, a sliver of consciousness between the trigger and the automatic response. That gap is everything. Third, name the belief underneath. Complete the sentence with radical honesty. At the bottom of this, I believe I cannot have this because blank. Whatever surfaces, I'm not worthy. I'd be betraying my family. Good things always get taken. I'll be rejected if I'm fully seen. Bring it into language. A belief you can articulate is a belief you can examine. A belief running in silence runs you without contest. Fourth, interrogate the belief. Not with affirmations, with genuine inquiry. Is this a fact about reality, or a conclusion drawn by a child in a specific environment that no longer exists? What evidence contradicts it? Have people with your history, your wounds, your particular starting point, managed to sustain what you're afraid to hold? The answer, almost without exception, is yes. The belief is not a law of physics. It is a local adaptation that outlived its context. Fifth, stay. This is the move that matters most, and it is the simplest to describe and the hardest to execute. When the good thing is present, when the anxiety is rising, when every historical pattern is pulling you toward the familiar exit, the fight, the deflection, the crisis, do not leave. Do not create the argument. Do not minimize the achievement. Do not manufacture the emergency. Breathe. Stay for 5 minutes, then 10, then an hour. You are not waiting for the anxiety to vanish. You are teaching your nervous system that this new territory, this unfamiliar level of having, is survivable. Each time you stay, the thermostat shifts. Marginally, quietly, but it shifts.
This has been Neuromystique.
If this landed somewhere real, leave a comment. Not about what you plan to do, but about what you recognized. That distinction matters more than you think. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper. The next video continues where this one ends.